back with a Tri-State Sports Guys. It's time for the top 10.
We're very crisp today. I like that. That's because you're running the show and you run a nice tight show.
I'm doing what I can, thanks. This top 10, we were talking about the Jets. That's what popped in my head. I emailed it to you. The Jets they're not spiraling out of control, but it's turning out to be a season that people had real high expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So it just got me thinking, what were some of the worst seasons in New York history in our lifetime?
And most disappointing.
Yeah, not a game, but just like a lot of hype, a lot of hope, and then all of a sudden it just ends with a thud.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
All right. As I'm looking at this, I should say, I already think I have a couple too high, and I probably missed a few. I'm sure I did. Number 10, I put this year's Yankees. You know
I didn't have them in there.
Now, this is why I wasn't sure I should put them on here. Not because of their preseason hype, but because you look at the Yankees.
Tony thought they were going to win 85 games.
Yeah,
Cops.
Exactly. Not because of the preseason hype, but you look at the end of the year, the Red Sox, their nemesis, are gone.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a break, right?
Absolutely.
A-Rod's back. Jeter with a resurgence. They have Sabathia. Nova comes out of nowhere. And you're thinking
They got an MVP type season out of Grandy.
Yeah, and they got to beat the freaking Detroit Tigers. And then the first game gets rained out, which means Verlander can only throw once.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking to myself, this is their chance to they get away with some stuff here, and now they're going to move forward.
And to come back into their ballpark game 5 and lose.
Exactly.
I didn't put them
hobbled
in.
Detroit team. Like I said, I understand why you wouldn't. I'm sure you're going to have someone on there. I can't believe I missed. But that's why I put them there. Number 9, the 2010 football Giants. They have a chance to make the playoffs. I think they had a 2 or 3 game lead. They blew it all. And then your boy Deshaun Jackson with a walk-off punt return for a touchdown to just take the air out of the whole season, literally.
I can remember that so distinctly.
I was there.
I'm cooking gravy in my kitchen.
Yeah.
In my kitchen, you know my house. I could see the
Absolutely.
TV. I said, you know what, I'm not even going to watch it anymore. I'm just listening to it.
Yeah.
I'm cooking it, and they start scoring. And I'm like, oh my God, They start scoring again. To the point and then I had to just put it back down on simmer and just go watch the end of that game. That was one of the more memorable games I've ever seen in my life. And you're right. I mean, that you can make. I didn't put that in my top 10, but you could definitely make that argument because they had all the potential to have a good season last year. And they didn't. They didn't make the playoffs.
Number 8, I have the 2008 New York Giants. I don't have the record on hand. I didn't have time to go look for it. This team was rolling, and then Plaxico Burress shot himself in the leg.
Yeah.
And they may have won 1 or 2 other games after that, and they didn't even make the playoffs.
That was my number.
They were the
also.
best team in football at the time.
100%, and that was a team where they were talking about a mini dynasty starting out.
Yep.
They still had that, they had their defensive line together. They had the playmakers.
Eli's coming into his own, blah,
right.
blah, blah.
And you started having, even prior to him shooting himself, he had all the issues with him. He was hurt. He wasn't showing up to practices. He wasn't coming to meetings.
Yep.
That happened. It spiraled out of control. 100%. That's got to make everybody's top 10.
Number 7 are the 2006 Yankees. They're the best offense in baseball. They went into your Detroit Tigers, and Kenny Rogers shoved up their ass. Alex Rodriguez hit 8th in the deciding game. It was the beginning of the end for Joe Torre.
They were my number 9, and what I remember most distinctly, and anybody that listens to Mike and the Mad Dog back in Mike and the Mad Dog's heyday, was that Friday show, because this all happened on the weekend, was basically Francesa talking about, foregone conclusion they're going to win this. And the way that Monday started, for anybody that was a Mike and the Mad Dog fan, go YouTube. I don't even know what you type in. You type in probably 06 Yankees Tigers, Mike and the Mad Dog. His intro to that show, his good afternoon everybody, lasted about 3 minutes.
Yep.
And then he's so giddy he can't even talk over himself.
Because of Kenny Rogers.
And Francesa, for people that don't like him, it was the best thing he's ever said. So he goes off and he's yelling, he's screaming, let's play 2. He's doing all this stuff. And Francesa just goes, how about that Giants D, huh? Coughlin's got him playing well. It was probably the best line Mike Francesa's ever said in his life.
That was
discouraging.
That was the beginning of the end for them. That was when Yankee fans had given up hope that the glory was still there.
They still had that hope that we're still the Yankees, but they're not.
Number 6, the 93 Knicks, Charles Smith. He's still trying to make layups.
You're my number 6.
Oh, really?
My number 6, absolutely. Because when you look at that run that they had, that was their chance. I mean, you can make the case. You can give one of the seasons when Jordan was retired and they had a chance, and Elijah Wan kind of took over, but. You look at those seasons, they thought this was our chance, but that season there, and that was their year to do it.
Number 5, I have the 88 Mets. This was one of my earliest memories where I could actually remember moments of games. I remember 86, but just I remember the winning.
You're taking every word out of my mouth, and they're my number 5.
Really?
My first year I remember, because 86, I remember bits and pieces. I remember my dad let me stay up late to watch the games, but I don't remember '88, I can remember going to games that year. I can remember following it and just assuming this was the we're
I
gonna
had
win
to
this
look it
World
up.
Series.
I don't know how much you remember about this. The Mets, I knew they were big favorites. They'd beaten the Dodgers 10 of 11 times that year.
I remember that from when I was 8 years old.
And many of them were blowouts.
I didn't know that, but yeah,
many of them were like by 3 or 4 runs. And they had a 2-1 lead. And this is before you had like a Mariano Rivera closer. You just had like random closers. Dwight Gooden has a 2-run lead in the 9th inning. Dwight Gooden in his heyday.
Yeah.
2-run lead in the 9th inning. That is a lock.
Yeah.
And he walks freaking John Shelby to lead off the inning. And Mike Scioscia hits a 2-run home run, and they lose in extra innings.
That was basically the entire '86 team, plus David Cohn, plus Kevin McReynolds, which I'm not a huge Kevin McReynolds fan, but they had him. I mean, that was that, and clearly that was the end of their dynasty.
The one thing I want to bring up about that series, Hershiser pitched game 1 through a gem. He came on no day's rest to get a 1-out save in this game. He got Kevin McReynolds fly out. And then he threw game 7 through another complete game shutout.
Hershiser, people don't talk about how great he was.
Number 4, this one's going to hurt you. The 98 New York Jets. This team, I remember Parcells coaching them, and they had Curtis Martin at his height, Vinny Testaverde. They're up 10-0 against the Broncos. I don't know why I remember this, because I don't even care about the Jets. I remember the camera angle from the back of the end zone, and he's backed up there. And I don't know what happened. It was his Achilles or something. And they just never recovered. And the next year, he came back in the first play of the game. First series, he ruptured his Achilles again.
I didn't have them on there because, for whatever reason, that did not feel like a Super Bowl team to me. So it wasn't, to me, it was the whole ride was an exciting ride. I had the 99 Jets as a disappointing season because you were coming off of that. So I'm talking about, you talk about this first game of the season. And they had, what's his, Ray Lucas playing quarterback after that.
Rutgers
own, and now he's on SNY or whatever.
Yeah.
But so to me, that was a more disappointing season because to me, the 98 was kind of gravy. Like, it was almost like the Jets of the last 2 years. You're just excited. Like, we're back. You know what I mean? And 99 was going to be our year. And it just all fell apart.
Number 3, I have Tony's Bills losing the Super Bowl to the Giants. The only reason I have that one, I thought about maybe making a last Super Bowl because this was the one before they had any heartbreak. This whole year was like, this team is loaded. They're unstoppable. And it was just, the Giants took the wind out of their sails. And the way they lost that game, Scott Norwood, 47-yarder.
They were my number 3, and that's the only Bills team I put on mine for the same reason. The other games you could look, I mean, I don't know the spreads from back then, but I don't think that they were heavily favored, against the Cowboys. A few years ago they played the Cowboys and all.
They were a big favorite that game, right?
They were a big favorite this game. And that was a game they should have won. That was when they were they had all sides of the ball.
They were loaded.
They were
on
loaded.
All sides.
I mean, that's got to be. I would love to see where Tony had them. I would think that's the only one that was really a disappointing season.
Number 2 are the 2004 Yankees. They blew the 3-0 lead. Another Mike and the Mad Dog great opening. One of my favorites. The reason it's number 2 for me is because
I know where you're going. Number 1. I think we have ours flip-flopped.
Okay. The reason for me it was number 2 was just because it was a simple, like it was a 7-game, situation.
Yeah.
It wasn't like all this hype going into it. So I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into that. Number 1, it just hit me, the 2008 Mets. The reason I have the 2008
over 2007.
Yeah. Well, isn't 2008 the last year of Shea?
2008, yeah. 2007 was the huge collapse.
Well, yeah, but here's why 2008. I went back and forth. I almost put both, but this is why 2008 Mets was worse. Because 2006 they lose in Game 7. 2007 they were up 7 games with 17 to go.
Right. And a chance for it's a playoff game in that last game.
2008, last year at Shea Stadium, same situation, but it was like one of those A-Rod situations where it doesn't matter what they do all year. You're just like, are they going to make the playoffs? So you wait the whole year, and here they go again, last game of the season. Mm-hmm. They implode. They don't win. And insult to
that big game. I remember Santana had that big game, second to last game of the season. It was a shutout.
And John Maine threw a ridiculous game. Mm-hmm. And then what happens? They lose the game. And then they have this ceremony closing Shea Stadium. After the game, ceremony closing Shea. I still remember Howard Johnson, who was a coach, coming out like a right field. They were announcing him. Fans are politely cheering. He does not want to be there. He looks like he's crying. And it was just like that. I'm thinking to myself, I waited an entire year to get back to this moment because they'd blown it the year before, and now this happens. I remember breaking remote control after remote control that year.
Hey, I didn't have that season on there because you remember the big thing for them that year, Billy Wagner got hurt. So they pieced together a closer for the last month
Willie
of the
Randolph
season.
ruined Jorge Sosa. His career is he never pitched again because Willie Randolph threw him every day. because of Billy Wagner.
I didn't have them in there. I'm going to go over the ones that we missed, but I'm going to start down. I had the 04 Yanks number 1.
Yeah.
I had the 07 Mets number 2. I don't know how the 07 Mets didn't make your list at all.
Well, I just put them together and I just figured
2007 to me.
I don't want to talk. It's almost like it's too much.
Why even talk about it? If you need us to tell you why 2007 was a hard, then turn off and go find another freaking thing to watch.
Tom Glavine.
Tom Glavine, but even more than that. And the hype of Jimmy Rollins saying that they were, talking all the trash all year long.
To be right, he was
and we're all like, yeah, whatever. Jimmy Rollins,
he won MVP. Man.
He won MVP, dude. How could that not make your list?
Because it's too hurtful.
It really is.
It's too close.
Thinking about it right now makes me just want to fight or do something.
Awful.
They were my number 2. The ones that I had. And I think my number 10 might be a stretch, but I'm going to break it down for you why I had them. I had this past Knicks team, 2010, 2011, and here's why.
I thought about them because I didn't get LeBron.
Because when you were talking about the beginning of the summer, they were going to get LeBron. Okay.
And then they were getting Chris Bosh.
So we were going to have this, they were going to be the dream team. They were going to get LeBron. He's going to come. He wants to come to New York. All these endorsement deals. They don't get him. They still wind up getting Amar'e Stoudemire. And he starts out the season ridiculous. Remember, he was averaging like 30 points a game.
Sure do.
He was going to win the MVP award. Then in the middle of that season, they go out and get Melo and Chauncey Billups, who they thought at the time, it was kind of a throw-in, but people were really...
What a veteran.
Here's our big three. And then they get to the playoffs, and they do nothing.
Zero.
Do nothing. And we talked a lot about it on the show earlier in the spring. But to me, I wasn't going to put them in. I wrote them down, and I took them off, and I put them back in because it was so much of a roller coaster of a season. When you start from the offseason, the hype of getting LeBron, you don't get him, you still get Amar'e, you do all these things. You had Landry Fields. Everybody loved Landry Fields. He was going to be this.
This was the big dud of a season when you look back on it.
And it really was a big dud of the season. They had a couple stretches where they couldn't win games at all.
Yep.
They were losing terrible games. They were losing the playoff. We talked about a lot of the ones we had the same. I had one in here, and it's kind of a different kind of disappointing season. I had the 2001 Yankees. And the loss to the
I thought about that one too.
And not because, it was kind of a fluke way they lost. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Mariano makes that error. But we're coming off of September 11th. It was the one time, and I'll be honest,
you want them to win.
Not to sound mushy, but I was rooting for the Yankees. Because I wanted to. You wanted it for New York. At that time, anybody that's from this area, I don't care if you're a Met fan, anything. Even the people from around here that are Red Sox fans had to be pulling for the Yankees.
I couldn't believe they lost after their 2 miracle walk-off home runs. I mean, not walk-off, a game-tying home run.
Right, against Byung-Hyun Kim. They go out and they do those type of things. You hand Mariano the ball, best pitcher in Major League playoff history. He makes an error himself. You remember make that throwing error?
I sure do.
Then it's a little, just a fate blooper hit that gets over Jeter's head by Luis Gonzalez. So it's just one of those, just pure disappointment. Not disappointment in the way that they played as much as just disappointment like,
absolutely.
Whoa, the script was written. We were going to win this.
It was
September
very sad.
11th happened. The whole country's behind us. This was their year to win. This was New York's year to win.
Absolutely.
So that's what I had then, number 4. I talked about, I had the 2007 Mets number 2, and I had the 04 Yanks number 1. Not to expand on it too much more, but to me, that whole spectacle of being, they've made movies about it, they've made documentaries about it. It was just amazing to watch. And that was one I was
2004.
2004. That was when I was not rooting for the Yankees. Yeah. So, but to be a Yankee fan, to be the first Major League team to blow a 3-0 lead, and to do it to the Red Sox, and then have the Red Sox go out and win their first World Series in 86 years.
Yeah.
How could it get any more disappointing than that?
I have. Are you done?
Mm-hmm.
A story about that. I don't know why I remember this. I can remember exactly where I was. I was driving. I was living in Queens at the time. It must have been 2 in the morning.
You were watching the game with Cliff Floyd.
No. It was 2 in the morning. I'm driving back to my apartment in Queens, and I'm listening to Late Night Fan. Somebody calls. Random guy calls a random show like Tony Page, and he was just really eerie, sounded like a Russian guy. Yeah. And he just said,
"Why's he got to be eerie? Because he's Russian."
Well, no, just the way he was very quiet and mellow, and he just said in his voice, he said, "I don't know why everybody's so mad. The Red Sox are down 3-0. They're gonna win tomorrow. They're gonna win the next day, and they're gonna win this series." And he just hung up. And Tony Page was like, "Well, that guy clearly has had too much to drink." And I'll never forget that. It was like he knew, and he just wanted to tell everyone, and he hung up. He didn't want to make a comment about it. And I'll never forget that guy. Wherever that guy is.
He's a genius, yeah.
He is a genius.
He's probably got that recording.
He's a witch doctor.
For his family every Christmas.
He's a witch. I'll never forget him saying that. And Tony Page, it was 2 in the morning. He's like, this guy's clearly had too much to drink.
That's awesome.
When we come back.
Do 5 and 10?
5 and 10. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, man.
We'll be back with the Tri-State Sports Guys.